inviting GE to participate in this workshop. There's no doubt a lot of good things are happening in societies across the globe, and maybe unnoticed by governments, but all largely good. And when you look at your organization here, no doubt about it. As you know, national governments across the globe, they're struggling on agreements on energy and greenhouse gases. Ever so often you read about what's happening internationally on treaties, in that no one is able to come together with large international treaties despite concerted efforts. But what we are seeing across the globe, in the literature and in forums like these, is that state and provincial and city governments are enacting policies on conservation and energy and greenhouse gases, and in some cases, voluntarily. And when you look at what you're doing here, a chunk of it is voluntary. It's not being driven by government, but driven by yourselves and your organizations. What you also see is that NGOs and institutions and community groups are very much involved, looking for the opportunities, very much independent of government, but sometimes funded by government. And you being here with representing your organization is testimony that the voluntary effort is real and represents a measurable and important part of energy conservation and greenhouse gas reduction. And this is a point in case that we wanted to share with you from GE. And based on what I've seen on the slides, many of you are already aware of these large projects, but wanted to share with you, based on our culture, how we do certain things. And the sub-theme for your meeting is cultural change, and whether we can offer anything as best practices to help you in your culture change. You would have seen in the media about 5-7 years ago, GE started on this path to look at research and development, largely in the energy area. And it's $2 billion per year for the next 5 years, and over the past 5 years, it was $1 billion per year on R&D. And for the next 5 years, to grow the energy side of the business twice as large as the normal GE growth. Over the past 5 years, we reduced across the globe our energy intensity by 30%. And moving forward for the next 5 years, we are looking at a 50% reduction compared to the base year of 2005. We also believe that water is linked into energy, as many of you do believe, and many of the agencies believe. So over the past 5 years, we reduced our water consumption by 20%, and moving forward, looking at another 25%. But rolled into that is looking at ways in which we can participate in society to also help society come along. And hopefully some of the slides we'll be sharing with you, it will give you some ideas on how to involve employees. Like all big organizations, it has to be top-down for the programs, and what we'll show you is a bit of bottoms-up to make sure that parts of the programs are implemented by those on the shop floor. You can see that this program, typically within our organizations, most of the programs are developed locally and run by the environment, health, and safety people. This one was started by the chairman of the board because he saw this as being a powerful way to convert the company and to ensure that we not only sell products like you guys that are energy efficient and help the community and help the environment, but we also deliver as an organization on some of the targets. So we're well organized at the top and well organized at the bottom. At the bottom you see that we have a research lab. Many of you may know our research lab is connected in New York, where we had 2 Nobel laureates on physics and chemistry many years ago. We now have 5 labs involved on energy and healthcare across the globe, in China, India, Germany, Spain, and a new one in Michigan. So again, you can see the focus to look at technology because, like you, we believe that technology and systems will be the solution to most of this. But also being a big company, you have a very high profile. So on the right-hand side, we show that we track everything that we do. It's visible to the public, it's transparent, and we communicate widely. And importantly, whatever we do, we have external parties certify that it delivers what we say it should deliver, because that is important as you market globally. So when you look at what we have done internally, and like many of you, we started in the early 2000s, and it's across the entire globe whereby we were tracking greenhouse gases, energy consumption, water, and waste. And some of you may use the ISO process. We use the WRI and the WSCD protocol. And you'll see a terminology, Gen Suite. Starting about 20 years ago, we created an inside IT system to manage the 300,000 employees globally, the 1,200 environment, health, and safety people, and all of the work that they do. So on the greenhouse gases and all of the parameters mentioned here, our Gen Suite system tracks that globally so that we can create reports and report to the public and to our shareholders. Across the globe, I mentioned 300,000 employees. We have 6,000 sites, and we included 4,500 sites in this program to monitor the energy, the water, and the waste, to report it up. And also includes, as you know, within GE Capital, we are one of the largest leasing company in the globe. So all of the vehicles that we lease, we track the consumption and add it to our database. We have 5 aircraft, and you can imagine the aircraft will consume a fair amount of energy. We also track that. And for a number of communities across the globe, we run desal plans. And again, you know that desal plans tend to be energy intensive, and we also track that. So we have a very decent picture of our footprint when it comes to energy, greenhouse gases, water, and waste. And so we can manage it. So now we want to flip and look at a best practice that I believe we wanted to share with you today and answer questions around it. And how do you involve the bottom up? How do you involve employees on the shop floor? And like many of you, we use the Kaizen approach, or Lean, or Six Sigma, management of change processes, or Lean workout. These are all management systems that we have used as the framework to develop a program to get employees involved. And it tends to be not only GE employees on the floor, it tends to be people from the offices, the engineers, the facilities managers, and also external personnel, including contractors who work on the floor for us, and also utility providers, and in some cases, government agencies. And by using this process, we are able to identify all of the potential, as was shown by Jennifer, to quantify it because of the system that we have, and then to look at opportunities for savings, both on return on investment and greenhouse gases. And you wanted us to show you some of the results, and in the box at the bottom, you see we have had so far 300 events and growing rapidly. The savings in tonnage for the carbon dioxide, the savings in dollars, the number of projects, and the employees trained. And just to get a little bit deeper into how the process works, you can see that it starts on a Sunday, when the equipment is asleep, so you have a bit of a baseline. You do the assessment, showing if there's any wastage while the shops are shut down, and then get into the monitoring late on the Sunday, all day Monday, and then a bit of a Tuesday. But if you look at the process, like you, we are big in Six Sigma. You see the orange line in the bottom. It follows the DMAIC process, in that you define what you're trying to do, you analyze it systematically, and just to show you, you measure and you analyze, and then you improve and control. So you're following the Six Sigma approach. It doesn't have to be like this. This is the way GE likes to do it. One can skip the first 2-3 weeks of work and get straight into it. And Rennie will show you a little bit of that on the back end. So it's a matter of a few weeks before one starts to do the treasure hunt is to understand the parameters that you have. And you see the variety of parameters that we collect. And I believe these slides will be posted so you can see the items that we tend to cover. And so collect as much information as you can by the in-house people about all of the potential energy sources and of course the water sources, and to have an eye open as how one can influence them. And I tend to describe it in such a way that you take apart every single system analytically, and then you put it back together, trying to make it more efficient and lower energy consumption. And it's amazing when you follow this process, as disciplined as it is, you're not able only to save on energy and greenhouse gases, but you tend to save on a variety of other things, because the focus is on waste. So it's waste energy, but it's also wasted effort, wasted products, wasted time. And so it helps you to optimize on all of that. So although you see a hard dollar saving on the way you measure it, the indirect saving is tremendous. So again, you see the various steps in preparation for the treasure hunt day. And the day is like this, a typical kind of audit day where you get things prepared by the on-site leaders. You get everyone aligned, they understand their role. And there is a short training session on the role of each participant. You can have between 10 to 20 participants based on the size of the operation. You divide into teams and you go after each potential energy source, any waste source. And we have a matrix and a chart to fill out. And this is automatically fed into our Gen Suite system where it is collated. And the back end of it, you get a report which shows the potential for energy wastage and the potential for energy savings. And then on day 3, we have a report out with the site leader, whereby all of the data will be shown, the trends, the wastage, and the potential for savings, and also sometimes on the other kinds of savings that one can get from the process. But also importantly, what you have is a commitment, and sometimes it's a written contract or an unwritten contract with the site leader that information will be used to improve the process or the site. One will tend to get engineers involved because by and large, some of the savings and the fixes will tend to be administrative, some process-wise, but by and large, you're looking at engineering solutions. And again, many of you may be involved in with GE in some of these fixes. And then you come back another time to verify, because importantly in all of this, when you do it, you want to ensure that it is sustainable. So you take a snapshot, you find the fixes, you do the fixes, but you want to put systems in place to ensure that it is sustainable. And importantly also, in most of these kinds of systems, we tend to come back a year later, 3 years later, or 5 years later to make sure the fixes are still in place, but more importantly, to find potential for additional fixes, additional sources that can be fixed. So you can see the process is very disciplined. One can simplify it for a small site and just have a week of preparation and then get straight into it with the training. And it's amazing that the savings that you tend to get out of it. And this is an example of one where, because of the way we do things, because of the Gen Suite system, today we can decide that we are going to go after all of the plants globally and look at lighting. Ask them to do the treasure hunt the next week, to report back to us in the 3rd week, and the 4th we start fixing stuff. And this is what GE is good at doing. I'm sure many of the large organizations can do that. And this is done globally. So here's a snapshot of 150 plants globally where they're asked to do exactly that. And you can see very quickly, within a month or 6 weeks, the savings, not only in dollars, but also in CO2 savings, plus the other kinds of indirect savings. So the process works beautifully, and we tend to apply it to all sorts of things. Whenever there's an attempt to try and open up something, we use this process. For instance, on safety, we had an issue with cranes. We just had a treasure hunt on cranes. On ergonomics, we had a treasure hunt on ergonomics. And it tends to work for everything. And basically, it's opening up the entire process and putting it back together. That's the system. And again, you can see the direct benefit: better lighting, energy conservation, better appearance, and of course, you'd expect better productivity and better safety. Another big project, like 1 or 2 of you here, we are in the jet engine business. In Mirabel, Quebec, we have a engine test site similar to this one. And just by intervening with this kind of process, you can see the major savings all within a year. Dollar savings and CO2 savings, all within a year. And it's a matter of using the brains of all of the people who work at the site and then bringing in some of the experts to help us with some of the detailed technical aspects of it. Big savings. And this is where I'm saying that voluntarily these things are happening and making a difference to society and the environment. And we also engage the supply chain, and many of you will be engaged in this. So we have done treasure hunts at customer sites, supplier sites, and then we also do training. If ever a customer or supplier want to get together so they can learn the process, we also do that. But importantly for GE, on our Gen Suite site, we post the systems, the tools, and all of the best practices that come out of this. Because as you can imagine, if you do it globally, you get a richness of best practices. And you want to mine the best practices so that others can benefit from it. Like many of you, we do a lot of work in China. We have 4,000 suppliers in China. We have worked with the suppliers to make sure they do the right things on safety, the right things for the environment, the right things on labor laws, and now the next step is trying to do the right things for the environment. So we are going to apply the treasure hunt with the 4,000 suppliers in China. And because we are like you, we are sticking our necks out, we get the tough questions from customers, suppliers, from governments, from residents. But because of the knowledge base we have created in the laboratories, plus the people within the company, plus the EHS people, we are now able to answer these questions whereby 5 years ago we couldn't, because of the expertise and the knowledge base created. Some of them are complex questions. I see many of you have tools to help do this sort of thing, which is great. So today it's easier. And so today one doesn't have too many excuses not to be able to pursue these things and to answer the questions. So one can do it. You can do a treasure hunt in any one little box, or you can do a treasure hunt for the entire process, or you can go the next step and do it with your suppliers, with your transporters, with your customers, the entire supply chain. And we have done it across the chain because we believe it's the right way to do this. So what are some of the lessons learned? In our culture, we have great leadership, and this one was grabbed by the senior leadership, it wasn't us. Today, we're able to respond to any inquiry. If we can't, we get it from our research labs. It's a way to engage cross-functional teams. We are good at doing that. Many of you are able to do that. We go very broad, as I mentioned. You take things apart and you use all the brains you can get. You also go deep. And in systems like this, as you know, in Workout and in Six Sigma, there are no sacred cows. Everything is put on the table. And if you're going to do it, you have to be transparent. Your data has to be clean, high quality, and be able to track them. And also importantly, to be able to mine the data so you can create systems out of it, to quantify and share the successes so that others can learn from it. You will fumble initially, but you can share that and so others will learn. As I mentioned, to make it sustainable, to find ways to do it, that is not easy. Once you've hit the low-hanging fruits, it's tougher to get to the higher level. But again, one has to go after it. Again, independent of statutes and law and government, and we know we can do that. And to involve as many as possible, involve in other groups, and in some cases, at certain sites, we've involved NGOs, so they can help us with the more complex fruits. And GE has a long involvement. I just want to show this slide and come back to the last slide. And some other lessons learned. You can use your culture and systems, but also change if you have to, because it means changing the culture to be a more conservation type culture. To use the big tools available, Kaizen, Six Sigma, Lean, 5S, whatever, Workout, management of change. There's so many management systems available where you can use as the backbone, as the infrastructure to get you there. What is important is that I mentioned the indirect benefits. The exercise helps to grow the participants. It's amazing how it converts the participant to think more about engineering and ways to conserve. And then the process, as I mentioned, could be applied to safety, the environment, ergonomics, and whatever you want to. Wherever there's a potential for waste or potential for harm, you can use the process and have tremendous savings. And so just to get back to the employee involvement part, about 15 years ago when we started the process, we have always involved employees. We have always been unionized, and to succeed in this world with unions, you have to engage them. We have always done that. But more recently, we have systemized it. Because we're a systems company, we tend to systemize everything. And this was systemized. Like you, we have a 21-element health and safety framework and a 6-element environmental framework. But one major component, one major element is employee involvement. And you see the stats here that for every single site in the GE world, we have 20 to 80% of floor employees, engineers, involved in something EHS. I think that's great. Maybe you do better. But it's important to get that brain power and those hand power into the equation. And it's amazing what you'll find from shop floor employees on energy saving. It's amazing, and we keep on celebrating that. And also to celebrate the volunteerism and the wins. And then all employees have the ability to take the process whole and into the communities. And we see a lot of successes within our communities by people becoming, taking the knowledge learned into the community.